Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Feeling and Healing podcast. Today, I am so honored to welcome Brandy Graham. She is actually a legacy and identity coach. She coins herself as the Legacy Liberator. She is also in the beauty world. She also is a hairstylist and is still behind the chair. So she has that lovely duality. But welcome, Brandy. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I would just love to know, we've talked about this, I think you mentioned that your clients that you work with, both in the chair and out of the chair, sometimes feel like we're wearing like masks. So how do you kind of uncover people's true identity and help them try to shift from thinking kind of in present and then about their legacy?
Well, I like to call it the polished prison, right? Because I
Mm,
think so. And I don't think, and when I say polished prison is what I refer to as the mask that we wear out in the
mhm.
world, because things can look really well. It doesn't mean that your hair and your nails and your makeup is
Yep.
done. You're still polished because there's still a level of performance there. So that can imprison us and enslave us to that being who we are. And that's not who we are. That's an identity that we present in the world. And we're not really free in that.
Yes.
So that's what I've found being behind the chair. Like you said, I'm in the beauty industry and I've been in it for nearly 25 years. And I know we all have heard this saying that when you look good, you feel good. And I like women to feel good about themselves, not just externally, but internally. And I have the privilege to be able to help them look their best externally, but also really to be and feel their best internally from my coaching.
Absolutely. And I think, it's one of those things. I know, as you said, beauty, is like external, and society, we have this, as you said, like this like polished look. But if what's going on, and this is what I've just found in my life and working with my clients too, if we can't go inward and fix that, no matter how much lipstick you put on, the color of your hair, you're still going to feel not beautiful or not powerful or not your whole self.
Right. But I think there's a lack of awareness.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that we're all running on a system, a
Mm-hmm.
belief system, our
Yes.
own internal
Yes.
belief system that we run
Absolutely.
on. But that belief system was formed like before the age of 8, So if we're
Hmm.
still running on that belief system, it hasn't caught up to where we want to be presently in our lives. So it's antiquated. So the belief system usually limits us, keeps us
Hmm.
small. And a lot of times you don't realize it, but it presents itself that you don't feel like you're good enough.
Hmm.
So there's
Like
a
that
lack.
self-worth. Yep.
Yes. Yes, that's it. If there's a lack, or if you feel that there's a level of limitation, you're going to be trying to perform because you think you're not enough. So that is the polishing up of the prison. That's what it looks like in the world from what I've observed and from what I've also experienced. When I say it's subconscious, like you're not aware that you're
Hmm.
necessarily performing. You're not aware that I don't feel, like you said, you don't feel good, but you don't know why.
Yes. It's
So it's
yeah,
like
it's
a
yeah.
lack of consciousness as to how you got here.
Hmm. And it's so funny you mentioned that too, because I was actually ironically just talking to my therapist about this, about how, and this is just my take on it, so I would love your thoughts too, is that when you're operating from that, I call it survival mode, that performance, because yes, you're right, you're 100% correct. We live in a system that keeps us kind of, I guess maybe the word, I don't know if it's the word safe or shrunk a little bit. We kind of have to shrink ourselves to fit in the system, right? But I find when you're operating from a place of ego, that's when you kind of are in that performance mode. But when you truly, as you said, define your own core values, step into your power, form your identity, and as you what you do with the work with your clients, that's when you can truly live and form your core identity. And I think when that's I can kind of think the situation we're in society nowadays is that you don't know as people if you're operating from your ego and your identity, and I guess you help your clients define that.
When you say operating from your ego, what do you mean exactly?
I guess I mean from your, I guess your persona, like a persona, or what you think you should be like, or what you think, and then that brings in other people too. What you think, like as you said, your core belief system, what your parents expect of you, what society expects of you. And I think once you, it's like once you, I guess, like really dig deep and really figure out, as you said, develop your core identity and your core beliefs and your core values separate of your systems, your, influences, your expectations, that's when you can truly, live a very intentional life.
I think that's incredibly hard.
It
And
is.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think it's so complex because again, we don't realize that we're living from a subconscious, like we're not it's like a veil. Like
Mhm.
we're just not fully aware. Like we're just going through life. Okay, well, we were raised a particular way and
Mhm.
mirror neurons. Like we mirror what we've seen in our family. Our parents are our first mirror. And then, I stand
Yep.
behind the mirror and I watch women observe themselves in the mirror. And then as we have children, we mirror to them how they should be in the world. So, but how can the view is going to be distorted if you don't know who you are.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
but how do you know who you are when everything has been handed
And
down to
been,
you and you think it's your belief system, but it's not? It's just a generational belief system, and it gets really convoluted. And I think that there happens, a lot of people talk about the dark night of the soul. There's an
okay.
awakening. Like
Yeah.
either you're in too much pain or
Yeah.
you've become really awakened to yourself through, I don't know, maybe you read a book, maybe you heard a podcast, and you begin to question, well, yeah, how did that happen? Well, it's just we don't ask enough questions.
Mm. I love that. Yeah, I would have to actually agree with you that you don't change, or get out of this cycle. I call it like the hamster wheel until the hamster wheel gets too painful. And then you're like, all right, something's hurting. I need to change. What's going on here? And like you might call it rock bottom, people call it, but you need to get to that kind of point, that level. And then you're like, I'm gonna switch and consciously choose a different path. But you're
Yeah,
absolutely right. I think I would agree with you. It is very hard if you haven't been through it. I think we both have also shared that. I mean, I've been through my own journey, and it wasn't until I was in an environment that was literally making me mentally ill that I was like, something needs to change here. But the thing is, too, is I don't know what I would love your thoughts on this because I was actually when having a conversation with my therapist about this earlier today. How do we like get people? Because like I don't want people to have to like go through a mental breakdown or feel so overwhelmed and have panic attacks. Like how do we help people before they get to that point, like realize like this is going on? What are your thoughts?
well, I mean, we can ask them a question.
True.
We can observe them and ask them about, their current experience. I mean, I have so many thoughts because I have so many conversations with people. So I'm thinking of like
No, yeah, no, no,
examples
no, absolutely.
to kind of make it make sense. I think, yeah, no, I think it's really hard to change unless it's something you want to do. You can't make someone else change. It doesn't
Absolutely.
really matter. And if you're in enough pain, then that should hopefully motivate you to change. But also, I've found that when people are in pain, they want to blame others for their pain.
Yep.
So that that doesn't, it's not going to be effective if you want to blame others. I think it takes some cold water in the face. You know
Mm,
what I'm saying? Like you got to be like down on your knees sometimes. Like this isn't work. Like this hurts so bad. I can't continue to go on like this.
mm. Yeah.
That that's the dark night of the soul that people talk about, or rock bottom that people talk about, that motivates them and pushes them towards change. We can't make people change. We can inspire them to change. We can motivate them to
Hmm.
see things differently, but it's really a perspective shift.
Yeah. No, I would have to agree with you. Yes. And also too, I think I want to like, and I tell my clients all the time is that change is hard. It's not, I think it's very ironic that we live in a world, we have so many options and literally every day is different if you really think about it. Like, every single day, every single minute we have in our entire lives is different, but yet we are so stuck to like a routine and structure, and as you said, you know what I mean, like kind of subconsciously stuck to this construct that we've built it essentially. you know
Yeah.
like we're unfortunately we're self-sabotaging ourselves right now because we built it. I mean, humanity built this. We like this came from somewhere. um but yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
think,
yeah, go ahead.
like you said, we built it. And I think growth for me is stepping away from the herd. It's
I
stepping
love
away
that.
from what everyone else is doing. And instead of just blindly following, critical thinking is essential.
Yes, and
You
I
know,
will say, not to get too far deep in anything, unfortunately, I think we live in a world now where people aren't taught to critically think. And like if they're not taught it in the home, they're really not taught it in school. I mean, maybe if you're really lucky and have a really good educator, a really, open-minded person you're working with or a mentor, but you're really not taught to critically think. As you said, you're taught to go with the herd, go with what everybody else is doing. And yeah, that's okay, but I personally feel that we're all individuals. We're all built for certain, to bring our power and to bring our gifts out in the world. And I think we've unfortunately lost sight of that as a society. And I love meeting people like you who are kind of paving their own path. And I that's why I like to do the work that I do with my clients because I'm not saying that you have to quit your job or you have to, not be if you want a family that's like but like live on your own terms, I guess is what I'm saying.
yeah. And the world is not set up for that because if there were more people stepping away from the herd, if there were more people going inward,
Mm.
the collective loses its power. The collective doesn't want to lose the power.
Well, yeah.
So you can't control people if they have
They
personal
have their
sabotage.
own, yep,
Yeah,
self-doubt.
you
Yep.
just don't know. Like that's the whole point, Danielle, is to keep people distracted, moving
Hmm.
fast, because they're discombobulated. They're completely like on your program.
Yes.
There's no time for them to look up and say, wait, hold on, wait a minute here. Wait, why am I doing this? What do I want?
Yes.
What do I want? What feels good to me? No, we don't want you to ask those questions.
It's so funny you say that because that is the first question. Like when I sit down with my clients and my like beginning of when I work with them, I actually ask them, like, I'm like, it's such a simple, but it's like, I'm like, what do you want? Like, and some of them can't even like answer it. They're like, "Well, I don't know." And I'm like, "Well, then there you go." I was like, "If you don't know what you want, then we can, we'll work on that together." But I was like, "You need to figure out what you want out of your life, and then we can work towards that."
And I don't think it's their fault. I mean,
Oh, no,
I
no, no,
work
no,
with
no.
women,
Mm-hmm.
and we know as women that we were raised to dismiss our voice and dishonor our feelings and to
Mm-hmm.
override ourselves, to self-abandon to please others. So, because of that, how can we know what we want? We were not considered.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you're not going to know, but you can figure it out. Like you said, well, you need to know that first. But a lot of times people just know that what they have right now, it doesn't feel good and they don't like it.
Yeah.
And they think that having something else will make them feel better. But that's not it either.
Well, you made the great point before, as you said, when I always said I've learned this as a practice, and it's something that I work with my clients on, and you work with your clients on first. And you mentioned too, like blaming, right? If you're in enough pain or something doesn't feel right, it's easier to go external. It's easier to perhaps numb. It's easier to distract. It's easier. But once you turn that and start looking in, that's when the real work starts. And I think that, in my humble opinion, well, what did they say that the quote, it's like the forgive me, I'm having a moment. The amount of truth, it's the person's capability to grow is directly proportional to the amount of truth they are able to see about themselves and not look away. Like looking inward, in my humble opinion, and would love your thoughts, is a necessity if you want to start this journey.
Yeah, I definitely think you're 100% correct. And it's uncomfortable
Mm.
because everything that we look at is not going to look good. It's
Yes.
not. And we have to take ownership and accountability for our decisions and
Mhm.
things. I was having a conversation with my therapist today. Also, I guess we had therapy today.
We both had therapy today. I love it.
Yeah, about my mother, and I have so much compassion. She's deceased now, but I
Okay.
have so much compassion for her because of what she came from.
Hmm.
However, and in addition to that, she caused me a lot of pain
Of course.
because of her not doing the work, not even recognizing that she needed to do any work. But that's what it is. Like, yes, we can have compassion for mistreat, the people that mistreat us, but that doesn't absolve them of it doesn't of the impact, right? So it's the same for us. Yeah, well, we could have been in a traumatic relationship or had a bad boss, but that does not excuse us from our behavior.
Oh,
So there's no
100%.
excuse. There's
And I think too, you mentioned a great thing, as a potential family therapist, generational, wounding, whatever you want to call it. There is an impact, and I love that's one of my favorite words. I think it's going to be a title of a book I write, because there is an impact across generations, and as you said, how you live your life, your behavior impacts not just you and not just other around you in the present, but potentially your future family members, it could this could both good and bad. I'm not saying, both good traits and bad traits, but I see it as a, intern right now working with families, how generational trauma is real.
yeah,
And we have this saying in family therapy, either you repair it or you repeat it, because you don't, as you said, you don't know anything else. And unfortunately, I was just having a conversation with a friend about this, is that we are wired. So I feel like the system is wired is made for us to kind of just not truly live. And then our biology, like our brain is wired to go to the familiar. So if I have like something new that's maybe exciting or maybe something chaotic, I'm gonna go with what's for my brain is literally telling me, Danielle, go to what's familiar, even if it's unsafe, even if it's not good for me. And it really does take a lot of mental stamina. Oh, as you said, awareness. I love that, awareness and as you said, accountability.
you're right. Yes, because our nervous system wants us to feel safe. And
Exactly.
even if dysfunction, that's the whole point, to keep us safe and alive.
Yes,
But
yes,
if
yeah, like basic,
dysfunction, yeah, yeah. If
basic life
dysfunction,
function, yeah. Yeah.
right. If dysfunction is what is familiar to us, because that's where we come from, that's familiar, that's safe.
Mm-hmm.
That's safe to our nervous
Yeah,
system.
exactly. Even though it might be unhealthy for us mentally, it might be, destroying our nervous systems. And that's another thing too, and I'm sure you agree, is that as I said, our nervous systems were not built to be as in the environment we're in right now, with so much stimulated so much from every notification on your phone and email, and this is like we're living in overload.
Yeah, completely taxed. Completely. Yes. That's why it's so important to step away from that
Hmm.
to get back in our bodies because your body is your powerhouse. And everyone has the gift of intuition. That's just how we were made. We see animals have instinct, we have intuition and instinct. So, but I mean, I had a crazy thought. I'm not going to say it.
No, no,
But
you can
it's,
say. this is a safe space. So if you would
But
like
we
to
see
say it,
how animals instinctively react when there's danger around. But if they were distracted, not paying attention, they couldn't protect themselves.
you're right.
And our intuition is to protect us, also to keep us safe, but it lives in our body. And if we're distracted from ourselves and not in our body, not centered, not grounded,
Mm,
and dysregulated more than we are regulated,
yep.
I mean, because we're going to go back and forth, right?
Of
But
course. We live,
a
we're
healthy
humans.
nervous system,
Yeah, we're
right? A
humans.
healthy nervous system can return to homeostasis faster.
Yes.
Just, but if you're constantly living in a low level of dysregulation, your intuition is going to be off. You're not going to make good decisions. You're just not going to be your best because you are functioning at a very low level. Really.
Oh,
Stress is
oh, and I will say, like, I'm living proof of that, like what you just said. Like when I have been in it has, like, in those, I said, like when I'm activated and my nervous system is activated, that's when I know my signs, my anxiety heightens, and that could then lead to, so many things. Obviously, everybody lives in a constant state of stress, unfortunately. But as you mentioned, the grounding yourself and knowing, I think, and that's another thing I think that people don't recognize. They don't know their, like, as you said, homeostasis. For those of you who don't, I know, and I love that you use that word because that is a family therapy word. But for those of you who don't know, homeostasis is kind of like your balance. You know, it's you're good. You know what I mean? It's that level of, like, all right, like I'm at my most
baseline. It's
calm.
like your
Your
baseline.
baseline, exactly. You're at your most calm, connected. You're feeling like yourself. And you can only determine that. That you, the person, not you. You, but you also you too. But and I think that, and also too, what I love, and what I'm learning about homeostasis as a family therapist is that homeostasis is also built to maintain itself. So when you're at that calm, cool, collected, your body and your systems and everything around you will adjust to that homeostatic state.
But
Yeah.
to that point, okay, so like
No, yeah, you're
to that point, when you come from chaos, dysfunction,
yeah.
and trauma and abuse, that is your homeostasis.
Yeah, that's a great point. That is
So
a great point.
when you're doing inner work, okay, you've had enough. You don't want to do it anymore. Your life's not working for you and you want to shift it. And then you decide you want to get a coach, you want to go to therapy, whatever, or you want to start journal, whatever.
Yeah.
You want to work on yourself. It's going to be so uncomfortable to your nervous system
Yes, it is. Yep.
to have calm, to be
Mm-hmm.
responsive. Like that is actually going to feel like dysregulation because you're
You're like
regulated.
guys, you've been wired.
Yes, chemically, that feels so unnatural, but
Mm.
it's you're reprogramming. You're
And
reprogramming your
yeah.
brain.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny you mentioned that because I think a lot of times, I know this, I think the statistic is, forgive me, I might be if you know it, but it's pretty vivid in my mind that it takes, I think, a person in an abusive relationship 7 times, I think it is 7 times to, like, get out of it. And it's
Mhm.
because of that programming that you're mentioning. It's because of that intermittent reinforcement. It's because of that pattern and those cycles that, like, it's as I said, our brain, we're wired to go to what is familiar, even though logically, and I mean, and I have to stop myself in my life even and be like, what is, what is the logical choice here, and what's the emotional choice, which is, emotions are more connected to your nervous system. But that's why I think it's so difficult, unfortunately, for, victims of abuse to get out of those toxic cycles.
Yeah, it's been normalized for them. And because they've been brainwashed. But I want to take that a step further
Yeah.
because we were talking about family dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
And so oftentimes when someone is in an abusive relationship, we say, well, why don't you just leave?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Why
Yep.
don't you just leave? If he's hitting you, he, she, whatever,
Yeah.
hitting
Yeah.
you, like they're screaming, cursing you out. Why are you doing this? You can do better. However, the caveat to that is if it's in a familial relationship, The
Mm.
story is different. The narrative is that, well, you know, that's your mom. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's your dad.
Mm-hmm.
That's your aunt. That's your blood. Why is it any different if you're being abused in your family versus if you're being abused in your relationship? Like
They're both
abuse
relationships.
is abuse, right? They're
They're
both
both
relationships,
relationships, yeah.
but we excuse family harm more than we excuse romantic relationship harm.
Oh, well, I would wholeheartedly agree with you. Yes, because of that, the construct that our society has built upon family. I think, and it's funny you mentioned that because there are a lot of different family myths and family dynamics that come up, like a good a family, I guess a family myth, and people, I don't know if people know this, and I'm sure you do, could be like potentially like loyalty, right? Like kind of like blood's thicker than water. Like sounds lovely. Like, you know what I mean? Like a lovely sentiment.
Yes.
But the behaviors tied to that family myth or family belief could be destructive and could impact future generations. It's so funny you mentioned that because talking about generational stuff. I was just reading something for one of my classes and I'm talking about a family myth that was about an Italian family that grew up like in the 1800s, but third generation daughters. So first generation had this family myth of like loyalty. We're are just always together. They even lived close together in Italy. Like, but third generation people that then they came to America had daughters. Their daughters suffered from anorexia, like severe anorexia. Family therapy, looking at family dynamics, was able to trace it back to that family myth. And that's how powerful something like that could be.
Yeah.
And then you talk about, impact and legacy. And I think I love that too. I love that you because I also always ask like myself, I ask myself this, like, because at the end of the day, right, Brandy, like when we go, we're not, all the stuff that, whatever, like, but like it's like what impact do you want to have? I always ask myself, what impact do you want to have on other people? When you leave this earth, I think it's like a question that everybody should ask themselves is like, what's your legacy?
Your legacy is what you do every day. Your
Yeah.
legacy is who you are. You're living your legacy now.
Yeah.
You're, it's not what you leave behind, it's what you're creating every single day.
I love that.
And I think that's important. Your legacy is how your kids witness you when you're speaking to someone that is not giving you what you want. If your coffee is wrong at Starbucks,
Mm-hmm.
like you
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? That's
It's
your
as little,
legacy
it's
when
as little as that. Yeah.
yeah. That's what you're creating. There are mirror neurons in the brain. And so by witnessing you as a mother, I'm speaking like as a parent,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
child
Yeah.
looking at you, they're mirroring what you do. You're showing them how to be in the world. You're showing them
Mm-hmm.
how this is what we do. This is legacy. This is how generational trauma gets passed down because it it's being mirrored to you. Your brain is like, oh, okay, this is what we do. This is
Mm-hmm.
how we act. This is what happens. And this is then what I do. So when we were talking earlier about people don't know who they are, you ask people who they are. Well, no, they don't. It's just the same thing, patterns. This is the brain works in patterns. So you
Absolutely.
witness a pattern, you pick up the pattern, you become the pattern, you pass the pattern. Like this is what it is. And until we have somebody that says, time out, let's disrupt this. This doesn't feel good. No, I don't want to do that. No, I'm not going to do. You become like, how dare you? You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? To
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
family. Like, who do you think you are? Oh, you think you're, but no, it's what about me? That's why we don't know what we want because we're not considered. We're not
Hmm.
considered. We do what we're told and we do what we have observed. And we've taken it on as this is the way the world works. This
Yeah.
is the only way. No, it's not. You can do something different. But
Yeah.
when we're disrupting patterns, it's challenging. That's where it
Oh,
becomes.
yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. But I love that, like it didn't, yeah, as we keep talking about, I think the cure to like the disruption of patterns is you have to get to that point and on your own journey. It's whatever, yes, rock bottom, the dark night of the soul. You just get to the point where you can't live a certain way anymore. And that's when I think people I kind of awakened and I think we are going through kind of an awakening right now. I feel it just in society that there are, and I love it. And that's I think what both of us want to do is help people awaken what's their souls, and as you said, it's gonna be, I think this all the time. My one friend tells me all the time, and I love this, I think she should put it on a t-shirt. She's like, they call them growing pains, not growing pleasures.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's
I'm like, you
true.
should put that on a t-shirt. I'm like, because it is unfortunately very painful, and unfortunately we live in a society that we want to run to pleasure and escape pain.
Yeah.
It's
I
just is
mean,
what it is.
yeah, no, and you're 100% right because I think about it when if you go to the gym, I do
Mm-hmm.
some training in the gym, and when you're lifting weights and you want to be big and strong, but in
Yep.
order to be big and strong, you have to tear muscle fibers. You're
Yeah.
going to be sore,
Yes.
and then they have to rebuild, but you have to feed yourself appropriately and sufficiently so that you can grow bigger muscles. You got to go do more reps. I mean, so
Mm-hmm.
that's how it works for your brain in your behaviors and in your life. It's not just in the gym. We have to tear down the old systems, the old belief system, and create a new one. But what are you feeding yourself? You got to feed your brain and your environment and things that will get you there. So when I
Mm.
say feed your brain, that means that we can't be having like a negative inner
Yes.
dialogue running.
Yeah. Limiting beliefs. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, that's not going to get you where you want. That's going to actually break you down in a different way. No, it's terrible. But so many times standing behind the chair, I hear women do just that.
Mm.
And it's sad. And I think when you feel worthy and valuable, you show up in the world differently. And so
Absolutely.
that's what I do and why I do what I do as the legacy liberator to free yourself from your current legacy, your current story, the way that you're currently living your life, and create something different, not just for you, but those who witness you.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that, and I love that I love the work that you're doing with. I wish I would have known you years ago. You could have helped me. I mean, I discovered it on my own. My whole legacy, but I'm with you. It comes down to just those literally everyday things that you do. Like I'll tell a little story. I was actually in South Carolina over the weekend in Myrtle Beach, and I had a friend. We were just at Target, and there was this woman ahead of us, and she had she was just having, you could tell she was just having a day. She her credit card wasn't working. She had to get another credit card, and then she was just a little scatterbrained, and she left one of her bags at the checkout. And we were right behind her, and then I didn't notice it. My friend didn't notice it, but the cashier was like, "Oh, as she was ringing us up, she was like, "Oh, that woman just left the bag." Second nature to me was just to get the bag. Like I was like, oh, let me just run out and give her the bag. Like I was like, yeah. To me, I was like, that's what you do. But that was also like what I was, taught to do. And somebody stopped me in the parking lot when I was walking out, and they were like, they were like, I just want to stop and tell you that that was just such a nice thing you did for that person. And I was like, well, thank you, I appreciate that. But I was like, I just feel like that's second nature, right? Like to help one another out. You know what I mean? Like be there for one another. But that's, as you said, like that's a value that has been instilled in me.
Yeah, thank goodness. I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it
But
was
I mean,
her
'cause
stuff. She paid
yeah,
for it.
yeah, she
And
paid
granted,
for it.
it
I didn't
was
want
a
her to,
kindness.
yeah,
Yes. You
I
didn't
didn't
have
want
to
her
do it.
to, be all flustered and then, of course, get home, be like, oh my God, I forgot this thing at Target. Like it's something so little. And I think that's just also my, and I go to the back to what you go with your legacy and impact. It was a very small action, very small, but the impact of it, I was like, all right, yeah, like she could have went home, she could have been like, oh my God, like potentially, I mean, it could have rippled pretty
Mhm,
fast.
mhm.
The ripple effect could have impacted her in a very negative way because you could tell she was already just kind of having a day. And yeah, so I always go, instead of especially in my relationships, I will say, and I would love to know your thoughts on this, is there's intention, right? People that have good intentions, but then there's impact, and intention does not always equal impact.
That's right.
You were talking about, like your mom and family members. I think that a lot of times family member, of course, in a family or any relationship, friendships, people would normally, I would say, I don't want to generalize, but I like to have a little bit of hope. People have good intentions. Like, like I would hope they do. But yeah, sometimes you're gonna get some bad apples, but in general, I think people have good intentions and don't want to hurt people.
Yeah.
However, you know, if that, like their actions, like you said, their behaviors, how they show up, what they do, that's really what matters. You can tell me till you're blue in the face that you have good intentions for me, but if your actions don't align with those intentions, I I can't. Like I always say, trust needs proof, sorry needs change, and love needs action.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree. I think impact matters more than intention. I think intention is great, but
Yeah, yeah. It's a good starting point.
I think it's a good starting point. I think intention is in here, though.
Hmm.
Impact is out here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could intend not to hurt you, but if I'm dysregulated and I had a bad day and, you step on my foot the wrong way, the impact could be I raise my voice at you, and that
Hmm.
could be harmful. But I didn't intend, that
Of
was
course,
not
of
my
course, you didn't
intention.
intend to do that. Yeah,
Right. No,
yeah,
impact is far more important than intention to me.
yeah. I would agree. And I think too, I think that it goes back to like knowing yourself, knowing your body. Because I know, for instance, like when I'm having a day, like I tell people, like, I mean, not like, I mean, this is just a me thing. It's not, I'm not saying this is normal because it's not. I'll be very transparent and like, hey, I'm kind of in a rush today, or like something happened early this morning. Like, if I react in a certain way towards you, it's not personal. It's just, I'm a little, short fused today because maybe like I spilled my coffee in the kitchen and I'm a little angry about it. Like I don't I try my best to consciously know when I'm reacting and process that internally so then I can thoughtfully respond to people because I know that if the impact I have on somebody else could impact their relationship with themselves that day or
Right.
that moment.
Yeah, no, that's what you were saying about the ripple effect with the lady
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
Target. And Danielle, I most people don't have that level of self-awareness.
Well, I mean, I don't have to toot my own horn, but
You're
I've
you're doing the work, right? That's
yeah,
what
like I
that's
mean,
what it
I've
looks like.
done yeah, and I will say that like I think it's also too as you know, just being a coach, observing a lot of things and even working with women on their external, you get a sense, it's like an energy kind of thing. You get an insight and it's something some people have, some people don't. I think we both probably have it. But as you said, it does start with, I always say like self-awareness is something that you know, you can build upon, like you can learn, but you have to be, I also am a big surround yourself with people. And I actually just had to have this like talk with somebody that challenge you, that want you to grow. If you surround yourself with yes people and you're not gonna you're not gonna go anywhere.
And right, but you were talking about ego before.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's an ego stroke if you're surrounded by people that are not challenging you
Hmm.
and you're in an echo chamber with people who they're not reframing, they're not considering a different perspective.
Hmm.
Like it's a very much group think group. I'm not interested in that. However, I think mo there's awareness that's needed. And if they don't
Hmm.
have the awareness, it doesn't, you're talking a foreign language. You're
Yep.
speaking Pig Latin to them and they don't know what you're talking about. Like, what do you mean? Like, no, that's not the kind of dynamic I'm in with the people. No, no. Yes, you have to seek, you have to look for people who do challenge you, people that are aware, people who are doing the work. And I don't. Personally, I don't
No,
want to say personally.
it's okay. Say it. Say it. Say it.
It's just not super common.
Mm. Yeah. I
It
mean,
happens randomly and around the world. But like in my immediate world, I'm not surrounded by a lot of people that have had coaches that have invested in themselves, that are entrepreneurs, that you know what I'm saying? That have done therapy, that are reading books, listen to podcasts. journaling in nature. They're not doing that. So we have
Mhm.
to find communities.
Absolutely. That support that exactly. And I
And
will
then
tell
we go
you,
into the world and we are living a different legacy and we show them what it looks like. And that's the ripple effect. That's how you change the world. The people do the work. They go out into the world. We're all on the path of life. The people that are
mhm.
a little bit ahead, they look back, they say, hey, you know what?
Like I
Look
think you could
at
benefit
you.
from this. Yeah.
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 That's how it works. That's how you change. That's the ripple effect. It starts in here first and it radiates outward.
It's
That's
so
it.
funny you say that because I say that all the time that like I'm gonna change the world. And not in like a I need to be this figurehead, but as you said, in small ways. And I started my business based off of my journey and I said if I could help one person go from what like if they felt the way I felt and help them along, I'll do it. And
That's what it's about. That's why we do it because we know what it feels like. See, this is why I work with women on, self-worth and using your
Mhm.
voice and freedom.
Mhm.
It's because I know what it feels like to feel small, to be called names, to not have good self-esteem. I know what that feels like. And I don't want
Mhm.
anybody to feel like that
No,
because the way that you feel and think and believe affects the trajectory of your life.
absolutely.
And you don't know it necessarily when you're living it per se,
Hmm.
but it's not until I've had enough of this, not until somebody says, I don't want to be around you anymore. Those are the pivotal moments where it's like, okay, I've got to change. Something has to change.
Hmm.
And yeah, we do the work, we go out and we help others. That's what we do.
Yes,
But
yes.
that's how you're changing the world.
Yeah, and you're changing the world too. With one, I mean, I see it even as little as, that woman like I mean, maybe I didn't change her life in a dramatic way, but that woman I gave her the bag. That's a change in the world. I changed something there. I'm
Yeah.
just like it was something very
Energetically,
small.
like your frequency went up.
Hmm.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
you really, and she will remember that because I think back to a few weeks ago when I was in Publix and I couldn't find the BOGO feta cheese that I wanted, right? And I'm like, well, this is a lesson in patience. I need to just be patient. And I stood there thinking it was just going to appear. I don't know. Sometimes you give things a second, third, fourth, fifth look
I know, right? I do that too. I do that
and
too.
you think it's because something's going to happen here. It did. I actually looked down and it
And
was
it
way
was there.
in the back. So I got it and I was like, good, just me being patient. It worked out for me. Go get in the line instead of self-checkout. I'll wait behind this person. Not a
Hmm.
big deal. I don't have anything else to do. I wait behind the lady and then I get up to the register. I'm not rushing. I don't know what she had going on. I'm just looking around. It's all these
Yeah, yeah,
impulse
yeah.
buys by the register. And she hands me the bag, the cashier. And I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
what?
She said,
You're
oh,
like,
the lady paid for you. And I'm like, oh, so I'm running out the
oh
door. And
my
I'm like, thank
God.
you so much. So it's like, I remember her, those little
Yes.
things, just like the lady at Target. She's going to remember you because she's like, oh my God, this lady brought me my bag. I was having such a rough day. And it's just those little moments.
Yeah, no, I love that. And even the guy who came up to me, like I thought I was like, he was like, that was so nice of you. Like, I hope then that behavior, like, and like inspires, like the movie Pay It Forward. I'm sure you've seen it. It's like, if you pay it forward, you see the ripple effect that can have three small things, very small, but if that spreads throughout society, and imagine what we could do if people start really doing the work. And I think that's like our both of our missions, very similar, like-minded, to work with people to start doing that work, to then spread this ripple effect of like, all right, like you do your work, so we just all level up. Because there's a lovely quote by James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, and I love it because I'm a systemic thinker. It's that we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And so that takes as it takes a collective, and that's how I view that quote.
And I think that's great. I think that's a great quote. And when you said systems, my mind immediately said our personal belief systems.
Mm, oh,
Yeah. We cannot, we'll never outgrow our self-concept. We'll never outperform our self-concept. Our belief system, our results, like beliefs, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. And if you believe that you can't, you're right. And if you believe
Oh,
you can,
100%.
you're right. You know?
Exactly.
So yeah, no, that's true. But I think it starts so much smaller. You
Mm,
know, change is really like on such a microscopic molecular level, and that being with me, you know, and like with you. That's it. Like I don't, yeah, the collective, I think that's great and everything, and I'm all for
mhm,
the rah-rah movement, but my biggest movement happens within me in the four walls of my house. This is where, and then I go and I create value and, you know,
mhm.
bring value everywhere I go. So, yes, and hopefully it can be a collective effort. And if it's not, I'm still doing what I'm doing.
100%. Yeah, because you've defined that. Absolutely. Well, Brandy, this has just been such, every time we talk, I feel like we have such an enlightening conversation. So thank you so much for being on the podcast. And where can people, I guess, like find more information about you or your podcast, The Legacy Liberator? Tell the audience where they can find you.
Well, no.
Taking out the megaphone.
No, no, I don't have a podcast, but I am Legacy Liberator on Instagram and then Brandy Graham on LinkedIn, which I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. And on either one of those will take you to my Paper Bell Me website. So if
Awesome.
you want to book a call with me or anything like that, connect. I love that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. And as always, to the listeners, this podcast will be available on my Feeling and Healing YouTube channel, as well as Apple, iTunes, and Spotify. Have a great day, everybody.